All right, let's just jump right in. Today we're breaking down a really fascinating idea from a devotional text, the concept that words are more than just, well, words. The source we're looking at proposes they're an active, powerful force that can literally shape your reality. So what does that even mean? Let's unpack it.
And here's our starting line, the foundation for this whole idea. The key words to grab onto here are quick, which in this context really means living, and of course, powerful. So the argument isn't that this is some static historical text. No, the whole point is that the word is a living, dynamic force that's still at work today.
So first up, what does it actually mean for a word to be living and active? Let's dig into the definition that the source gives us. Okay, this is where things get really interesting. The idea here goes way beyond just reading something inspiring. The source claims that when the word describes something, say healing or peace, it isn't just describing it. It actually carries the creative power within it to make it happen. Think of it less like a user manual and more like an engine that actually builds the thing. Now, to back up this huge claim about creative power, the text points right to this verse from the book of John. The logic is pretty direct, right? If the word was powerful enough to create, the entire universe, then it must have the power to create and recreate the circumstances in our own lives. And it doesn't just stop with creation. The source also brings in this idea from Hebrews, arguing that the word has an ongoing, sustaining power. So it's not a one-and-done deal. The idea is that it not only builds things, but it also holds them all together. It's an active force, right here, right now. Okay, so if the word has all this built-in power, how do you flip the switch? How do you activate it? Well, that brings us to the core mechanism described in the text, the huge difference between someone who just hears it and someone who actually does something with it. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The source argues there's a world of difference between passively taking in the information and actively putting it to work. It draws a very, very clear line in the sand. And you can really see the two paths laid out here. According to the text, the hearer is like someone who just glances in a mirror and immediately forgets what they saw. The information just evaporates. But the doer, that's the person who continues in it, who keeps looking, who actively applies what they've learned. And that's where, supposedly, the magic happens. So, this is the punchline. The source is adamant that all that potential in the word just stays dormant until you act on it. The power isn't unlocked just by reading or hearing it, but by doing it. The blessing, as they say, is found in the deed. Which brings us to our next section. If doing is the secret sauce, what does that process actually look like? Well, the source describes it as a journey of moving that knowledge from just an idea in your head to a reality in your heart. And this distinction is so important. The text suggests that the bridge between knowing something and living it is meditation. Not just sitting quietly, but turning the idea over and over in your mind until it stops being just a fact you know and starts becoming a core principle that actually governs how you think and act. The source uses this really powerful seed metaphor to explain the whole thing. First, you receive it. You have to plant the seed by just being open to it. Then you meditate on it. This is like watering the seed, letting it really take root in your mind. And finally, you act on it. That's what allows the seed to sprout and actually produce fruit in your life. So what's the payoff? If someone goes through this whole process and really becomes a doer, what happens? Our final section looks at the specific outcomes that the source promises will follow. And the text doesn't mess around. It gets very specific about these results. We're talking about things like divine health, wisdom, success, prosperity, even something it calls perpetual victory. The central claim is that by applying the word, you're actively building up every single part of your life. And this quote just brings that whole seed metaphor full circle, doesn't it? The end result isn't just a small plant. It's a deeply rooted, thriving tree that produces fruit consistently, no matter what season it is. It's just a powerful image of stability and life. So, to wrap it all up, the text gives us a clear framework. Words are a living, creative force. But that power is only unlocked when we move from just hearing to actually doing. And this process, the source claims, leads to some very real, tangible results. Which leaves us with a much bigger question to chew on. Beyond this one text, what does it truly mean for our language, for our words, to build a reality?